what's going on, everybody? It's been a little while since I've posted something. So I've been really busy with the start of the school year because my wife and I have just redone our music teaching website. And if you live in the North Texas area and you're looking for piano or guitar or cello or upright bass or bass guitar lessons, check out aberwongmusic.com. It took me such a long time because I'm a musician, not a web designer, so it's out there. Today I want to talk about a few things that orchestra directors get wrong when they teach their students, and a few things that students tend to, young students in particular, get wrong when they play upright bass. So the first one is end pin height. I think there's a few kind of standbys that people go by in terms of how long your end pin should be. So some of the standard adages are when you're standing, when your hand is relaxed, the bridge should be about at your knuckles, right? So this is about right here. And then I'm gonna scoot back for the other one. And the nut at the top end should be about at your eyebrow. These are pretty good estimations, but I don't think they're perfect because every student is slightly different. So I wanted to kind of talk about some principles of end pin height that I think might serve you better. So when you're setting your end pin, the things that you actually care about are where do your arms contact the instrument. I haven't heard an orchestra director ever say this to students, which kind of baffles me because this is the whole point, right? So if I'm bowing, I need my bow to sit at a particular location. If the end pin is too short, then the bass relative to my bow, you can see that my natural bow arm position is a little bit too high on the string, right? So if I want to play louder or need to play closer to the bridge because I'm playing in the higher register, I have to either reach or I have to lean forward a lot, which over time is bad for your back, but we don't want to have to lean forward. All right, if the end pin is too high, the big problem is that your left hand really has to strain to reach backwards. This is a really common thing for middle school boys in particular because they want to set their end pin really long, because that kind of makes them think that they're really tall or whatever. Over time, your left arm will get very tired, so you start playing everything sharp. Another problem is that your bow, you can't keep a good contact point and you can't actually use the proper mechanics. So those are the two principles that we're really focusing on, is where does my bow contact the string when my arm feels natural, and where does my left hand contact the fretboard or fingerboard where it feels natural. So this is about good for me. I'm not straining my arms or reaching anything weird here. My bow is about in the middle of the end of the fingerboard and the bridge. It's maybe slightly higher, but that's okay. That's normally where we play. The left hand is good here. I'm not holding it super high up, but I also have clean access to get into the thumb position if need be. Another consideration is sitting versus standing. I think it makes sense for all beginners to start by sitting on a stool, but the stool height needs to be set properly also. If the stool is too short, right, so I'll make my stools really short here, then it's like the end pin is too long, right? It's the same problem that we had before, because now I'm lower relative to the bass, and for me to play, I'd have to bring my arm up, and I have to keep my left hand higher, because now I'm shorter relative to the bass. Another problem is that for some students, your knee will get in the way. If your stool is too short and you're not playing on a really large bass like this, the bass may be closer to your body and you might get blocked by your leg, right? So the stool needs to be high enough that this right knee is out of the way. Here, this is a good setup for me. So when I'm standing, I like to raise the end pin a little bit compared to when I'm sitting because I'm 6'3", so my head is higher relative to the floor than when I'm sitting. So you're sort of setting your end pin relative to the shoulder height, actually. Okay, so when I sit, you see that my shoulders would be lower, and this kind of goes back to looking good. If your bow is naturally hitting at the bridge, then your end pin is too high. If your left hand is being held up super high and you play everything sharp, your end pin is too high. If your contact point in the bow is sitting on the fingerboard, your end pin is too low. Okay, so orchestra directors, try to check in with your students as much as you can. I know you have a million things to do, but sometimes these little positional tips will really change student sound. And there's a lot of kind of technical things that can be fixed just by having proper positioning. Talking about bowing lanes. So this is a really common way that orchestra directors will teach bowing, which I think is a great way. If you don't already know, are essentially different places to place your bow vertically to achieve different volumes or different tone quality. Sometimes they'll number them. Lane 1 is like over the fingerboard, and lane 2 is a little bit lower, lane 3 is a little bit lower, lane 4, and then lane 5 is like almost on the bridge. I've heard orchestra directors and programs also say that bassists should be bowing close to the bridge as often as possible, and I just think this is wrong. So if you think from a physics perspective, how the string vibrates, there is less tension the further away from the bridge you go. When you're at the bridge, there is a lot of tension, and it's very hard to overcome that tension because it's so strong. If you can overcome the tension with good bow, a lot of rosin, and proper technique, then you can produce a lot of sound. This is what directors imagine happening, but in reality, if you ask the average 12-year-old who has played bass for less than a year to bow at the bridge, what happens is they bow at the bridge, but they don't overcome the tension, so you just hear this scratchy mess of a sound. So I'm going to give you an example of both. This is me bowing in, I guess, what would be called lane 3, where I think is like a good standard for people to play. Now, if I move my bow down and keep good sound, I have to press harder because there's more tension. Right, you heard the beginning of that note was scratchy because I didn't press hard enough. And I'll gradually move my bow even lower. And you start to hear the sound distort at the end because I'm getting too close to the bridge and I'm not applying enough pressure, right? So a lot of students will get this sound consistently because their directors tell them to play close to the bridge. You only can do this after you have like trained this skill, okay? So you should bow as close to the bridge as you are able to make a clean sound. This is like the principle of how we should get clear sound in the bow, not just a blanket like basses. You're not loud enough, so move your bow closer to the bridge. They will be louder, but they will also not be really achieving the fundamental sound. They will be only hitting those upper harmonics and that scratchy mess of a sound. The third problem that I hear a lot with young students and orchestra directors is with tremolo. So tremolo, if you don't know, is when we bow a note as fast as possible and we repeat that note. So what a lot of directors will tell students is to play a long note at the beginning of the tremolo and then do the trem at the tip. This just doesn't make sense a lot of the time. The bass sounds like the bass when we have pressure consistently into the string. So let me play you two examples. So hopefully you can hear the difference between these two. The first one sounds very metallic and scratchy, just like when we're bowing too close to the bridge, because the exact same thing is happening. We're not actually vibrating the string in a way that the string produces the fundamental sound. We're only hearing upper harmonics. Whereas when we press and keep pressure, we can hear that low, in this case E flat. You can hear the low note that we're actually supposed to be playing. Alright, so hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you're an orchestra director that's guilty of these things, this is not meant to attack you in any way. I want you to, have information that will help your section sound better. If you have other things that you struggle with as a student or a director, maybe something's always up in your bass section as an orchestra director, or maybe you always struggle with a particular thing as a student, comment below, let me know what those things are, and I'll see if I can kind of go deep and explain why those things might be happening, and then some potential fixes for those things as well.